weekly feed, Kyle Meredith with the Avett Brothers.
Hello.
Fellas.
Hello.
Forecastle 2013, right here on the banks of the Ohio. It's a pleasure to have you guys back in town. Seriously, the Carpenter, this beautiful record. I know you guys are kind of still touring on for a minute at least, because I guess there's going to be more soon, and we can get to that later. But it is this beautiful record that I can't help but wonder, I think anybody that kind of wonders when you're writing a record, because it kind of gets quick after I Loved You, and maybe that's the way things go all the time. But was this record at all a product of the last record? Does it happen like that? Does it ever just like, okay, so this one became our most popular record yet, let's do that some more? You know?
Each record is always a product in some way or another of the last record, but it's never in the way that you described at the end. As far as making a correlation between the popularity of a record and the direction for the next.
Yeah.
That's never a consideration. Not that we like rail against that, but it's more along the lines of, okay, so this worked and then this didn't work artistically, musically, and how can we continue to figure out what the next step is, letting the last record inform us, but not really ever in terms of how it's received or anything like that.
Yeah.
Or at least we haven't had like a huge, like we haven't fallen on our face, as far as releasing a record yet. At least not to our knowledge anyway. Maybe we have and just don't know it. But we haven't had to think in terms of, oh man, nobody bought that record, it must be terrible or anything like that. So
yeah, each has been more popular than the last.
Each has been more popular than the last. We've been on a very gradual sort of incline, luckily, fortunately.
I think it's the horror stories maybe of like, record labels, when you're on a major label, throughout the 70s into the 90s, it was very heavy-handed, dictated.
Yeah.
So, I asked the question more from a fan's point of view, because, you can look at that and go, how much control does an artist have versus how much control?
Right. We're very lucky because our freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior attempt were all out of the major label realm. So, if you come in a major label and then you have this sophomore attempt that isn't as impressive, sales-wise, on a major label, it means something to the major label, as it should, because they're a business entity. That's what they do, is sell records and sell art. As the artists, when we were a unit, we weren't as really in the know about it. We weren't putting records out for selling. We were putting records out because it was in our makeup, and just what we did. That's how we breathe, that's how we live, and we did that enough until we did get with the business entity, which is the major label, I think that it works this way. You build up enough on your own, and then the major label is, the marriage of the major label and the artist make a lot of sense. It has for us.
Yeah.
It has for us.
Yeah, and it's funny, like the whole major label, the idea of the major label, there's good in it, and, there can be negative in it, but no more than any other business venture. I mean, there's extortion and lying and cheating and all kinds of businesses, brick masonry and certainly law and whatever, the medical profession and pharmaceuticals. And it's funny, like when people talk about major labels, we talk a lot of times in terms of those horror stories, because there are some really...
Well, it's salacious stuff. A good story's a good story.
It is, and a lot of the best music documentaries have a big tragic major label story in there, so we do think about it in terms of that. But we haven't had a bad experience. We've had it's for us just been like, well, this is a very reasonable step as far as trying to share music with folks that might enjoy it, and this is a whole set of gears that can help us get this music to more people that might enjoy it.
I definitely don't want us to be kind of a label bashing.
Oh no, of course, but no, basically our experience has been positive, and it's done nothing but help us kind of present our music to more people.
So back with the Carpenter and everything, and maybe the last couple, I think on the surface, there's been like, okay, the Avett Brothers getting older, it's a little bit mellower, even though there are some of the rock songs on it, You guys have been on the festival circuit quite a lot, and I have to imagine when you're up there, I mean, that's the, you got to break through with the bigger songs, right? It's never come around to a point where it's like, let's just do that record, let's do the rock record, full on.
Man, we have never gone into making a record and thought, let's make this kind of record.
Yeah.
You know, that kind of
throws that out.
Yeah, it really does. It really does.
It really is just how it all lies at the end.
Artistic concepts drive that instead of genres or sounds.
Yeah.
Well, some artists do try that occasionally.
Sure.
And you talk about falling on your face. Some artists do that. Like, I'm going to write that record and...
Yeah, I mean, imagine like Graceland. You know, that was a huge record.
Right.
But you know, theoretically, it just as easily could have gone the other way. Paul Simon with a bunch of these, you know, this big group of African singers. Like, okay, really, you're a folk singer. You know, like it could have been a horrible disaster. But he was following the artistic vision. We do the same thing in our own realm, but we don't walk in thinking, all right, now we're going to make the rock record. You know, if we find out that we did make a rock record, we're more on the kick of letting that be a nice surprise, you know, and letting that sort of reveal itself through the process of making a record. More or less, we just try to record the most current chapter, the most current, most complete songs, the songs that we feel like are the most complete or the most relevant to our lives now. And then see what we got at the end of it. You know?
Are you still guys find it easy to take chances on stage live in front of an audience as the audiences get bigger, as you get more popular, to say,
yeah,
let's try this out, let's see if this will work?
Yeah.
Because that also goes back to a thing where once you have so many eyes looking at you,
you start
do I keep that because I don't want that out there yet, especially if it's going to be entirely different later? But it's more of a preference, I guess, from artist to artist. How does it work with you all?
Well, we've actually been speaking about this a lot amongst ourselves the past couple weeks, whereas always every show's got to have some risk to it. And that's kind of the beauty of what we get to do every night, is take a chance and take risks in front of a large number of people.
Yeah.
On top of that, we need to be well rehearsed, and there needs to be an element of professionalism to what we do, because there are so many people, and we do this for a living, but we seek out opportunities daily to figure out where can we take a risk tonight, or, you know,
A planned risk.
I mean, every time you walk out there, you're taking a risk.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, but I guess is that, you know, versus the punk rock way of you walk out there, plug in and go, versus, you know, this is going to be a show.
We're landing somewhere in the middle of those two things. And talking about like rock music, we've been lucky enough to be around some other great festival situations where we're seeing the Foo Fighters or the Red Hot Chili Peppers or Neil Young, and kind of seeing, or Springsteen or whatever, and seeing how they do it, and how they push the boundaries of songs and push the boundaries of transitions between songs, and you know, walk that line between, you know, professionalism and looseness, and tapping into the spirit and all that.
Well, it's got to be good for a career this long in, because, I mean, it'd be so easy for you guys just to dial it in, like, this is exactly what they want, here it is.
Can't happen.
Right.
Can't happen.
No.
So that conversation with the fans, of course, is something you guys are no stranger to. Lately, I know it's been a bit elevated. Without any of the details, there's been plenty going on the website that I know a lot of artists would stay away from. You know, what we're going to let the artists know about our personal lives, whether you're saying it on the mic, whether you say it on the... Is that because you want that open relationship with your fan base, or is it because it's a, you know, I got to get this out there because it's going to get out there one way or the other?
We can't really help it because we wrote so many songs before that cover almost everything we go through now anyway. So a lot of things that we wrote 5 to 10 years ago apply directly to things that happen in our lives now. We kind of are straddled with the obligation to be courageous and say, you know what, all right, this is our name, this is what we do, this is what we're tagged. Now, a lot of people, we don't know your names. You're going through stuff worse, better, whatever, doesn't matter. You get to keep your name. Here's mine, and here's what's going on. And that's where it's not, I'm not like waving a flag saying I'm so courageous, because there are times where you're like, oh, geez, what have I got myself into? Why did I say this? Why did I present this? But that's our obligation, and we're up for that challenge. To be artists, we have to do two things. We have to see or hear and feel. See and hear and feel. And to do those things, we have to express it. And whatever's going on around us, whatever's going around the people that are closest to us, including us, we have to react to it. express it.
And as a non-songwriter, it seems like, I mean, it's always seemed like with any artist, like you write this song about something so personal in your life, you're stuck singing it, especially if it's a fan favorite, you know, for the rest, and I have to connect with that emotion. I mean, that's the torture of the artist, you know, to have to go through that every day.
Yeah, it is.
But, you know, does it ever get to a point where you say, the only way I can sing the song is if I completely separate myself from it?
Or completely put
Well,
myself
that's the
behind.
other side, right? Yeah.
Right, and you can do both. You can do both, really.
It can be very bizarre, sort of reading a page out of your diary 10 years after you wrote it.
Right,
You know, and like
right.
that. In essence, that is what a song is. A lot of times, is you're reading this, you're ripping this page out of your diary, and you're saying, okay, this was relevant, and this mattered to me in a very meaningful and present way. You know, in July of whatever, 2008, July of 2013, whatever.
Stuck looking at that yearbook photo forever.
That's right. But we're the ones that have to sing these songs, and we know what we're signing up for.
Yeah.
We do, and we consider that. We try to consider it in a really healthy way. Each time we put a record out, like knowing, like, you know, someone might like our band, maybe they're a super fan and they come to 20 shows in a year, but we go to all the shows in a year, you know, so we have to be behind the lyrics that we write, and you know, they can matter even if we're not in that place at this moment on this day. And keeping a conversation with our fans, there's an opportunity for two things. One, to let them know that we care, that we care, that they're so interested, and that there is a conversation. And it's also simultaneously a way to show, you know, this is kind of a boundary, you know, like I'm letting you know as much as I can let you know and still feel comfortable in my life. And that's a healthy exchange, and our fans are highly respectful to our privacy, highly respectful to our life choices, what they know about them, and it doesn't have to be a big explosive mess.
Yeah. Well, especially in this day and age, you're really lucky that you know they do have that kind of, because
Certainly.
you know, I guess there's especially some genres of music where that wouldn't last.
No.
So what's next? You guys, you know, you don't play by the 2-year rule. You know, album has to wait every 2 years. You got another one done. I hear that's in the can.
Yep. October should be out here.
And any news of this one? How does this one lie? I mean, is there any comparisons, or is this going to be a complete surprise?
Well, it's a surprise to us, the fact that it exists and is going to make it out this soon. We've seen a record develop mostly out of listening and editing and sort of scrounging. And hold on a second. There's an album here that we recorded, and it's very relevant. It's very good. It's possibly more intriguing than anything we've ever done before. So we felt that. We presented it to Rick Rubin, who produced it with us, and he said, I agree, let's do this. And then there was a whole new layer of listening and editing and thinking and adding another track, and so now we have this record. And so the surprise is a bit for us as well that it exists. The next surprise will be watching these songs grow from, you know, the recorded versions of the songs and the live experience are two different opportunities to make art. They're two different mediums entirely, and we've already seen some of the songs from this album make their way on stage in a very different form, and now we're starting to kind of dial that in and push and pull and see which ones belong where. There's some very loud moments on it. Once again, I would say it's probably, if you had to put it in a record bin, if people were still selling CDs in CD bins, it would be in a rock and roll. You know, if Harvest is a rock record,
Sure, right.
this is a rock record.
Yeah.
Very much so. We're very excited about it. We really are.
Well, I can't wait to hear it, especially what we have right now, the Carpenter. Once again, beautiful record that you guys.
Thank you for saying so.
Thank you for stopping by, guys.
My pleasure.
It's been a
Thank
real
you.
pleasure.
Thanks for taking
Cool,
time,
man.
Colin.
Thank you.